Okay, so we will call this meeting to order. And the first thing we'll do is we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I hear we have Public Works in the house, so come on down. Well, we have some remarks from our fearless Public Works Director, Brad Underwood.
I can use this. I need to advance this. Do you have the clicker? Sorry, I'm causing all kinds of problems tonight. I could have.
I hear
someone sit
Public
here.
Works
Is
is
it
supposed to
easier?
set up the mics, but that didn't.
You can't just do it from your phone, Brad? Come
I
on.
kid.
You're right. I don't know, let's see if this works. I'll see. I don't know. It looks on. There's lights. All right, we'll do it from up here.
So we're good at improvising too.
Yeah, good. Come on over.
Yeah. Thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Pleased to be here tonight. This is American Public Works Week. The American Public Works Association has designated this week in May as that. So I want to give you a little short PowerPoint presentation. Start off with a little bit of story. Sometimes when I run into people ask me, what is Public Works? So I want to try to get the word out. That's kind of one of the things we want to do in our department, is get the word out as what we're all about. So when somebody in line in Starbucks asks us, what is Public Works? They might not need to ask that question. So with that, Matt. So this theme this year is It Starts Here. And when you think about it, when you wake up in the morning through the rest of your day, really you kind of touch many things that Public Works either takes care of or manages. So, and our first responders utilize the roads we maintain to get to the scene of the crime or the fire that may be out there, but we are also first responders as well. Next. So one of the things we're doing is building our sustainable future. Next slide. And that's with the Clean Water Program that you're all very familiar with. And this is the latest rendering of the wastewater treatment plant. Many cities try to hide their treatment plant behind walls. We made a great effort not to do that, or hopefully this will be a great thing to see as you go by that area in the city. The Clean Water Program also has been working on keeping the current plant operational. We received a chapter award from the Silicon Valley chapter for our immediate action project. This is a photo of us receiving the award, and some more accomplishments are to come. The expansion project will start construction soon this summer with a celebration in early September, a groundbreaking celebration, and the underground flow equalization system project, another large project within the Clean Water Program, is gaining traction, and as we move forward to final design. Next. So some more efforts in the Clean Water Program, and actually this is a combined project where we replaced some 2,000 feet of sewer pipe, but also repaved the streets. So we collaborated within our department, different sections, so that we weren't out there twice, paving the street and then digging it up again. So this is a great collaboration. Unfortunately, it took us a long time to get this done. So the residents, had to suffer a little longer than we would have liked them to have to. We did communicate with them along the way, and as you can see from these photos, this is a beautiful paving job, so hopefully they're very pleased at this time. Next. Another project we're working on, of course, is a 25th Avenue grade separation project with Caltrain. They're actually leading this project for us. We're the project sponsor. We plan to bring a council update on this project to you on July 12th. Because of the significance of what's going to happen next later this year with the station closure for about 5 or 6 months in order to allow the track cutover for the new trackways that are being developed. Next. So we also work on improving our existing conditions. This photo on the photos on the left are of the large pump station that is in the pump station within the lagoon. So we have 6 of these pumps, and this is the second one that we've rehabilitated. So you can see the size of that. It's a big effort. Costs us about $100,000 each time we do this. We have 4 more pumps to do, but we want to keep that, of course, operational to keep areas of the city from flooding. And on the right-hand side is the North Shore View area that's in the flood zone that we're trying to get out of the flood zone with the projects that will upgrade to pump station and some of the levee work that we plan on doing. Of course, the high voltage street lights. I know you've heard from some residents at times when their lights are out. So we appreciate you supporting this program. Just so happens the lights in this area were the most recent ones that were out earlier this year. And lo and behold, we have a magic ball in our office that we just knew these are the ones that needed to be repaired. So they're actually, the award of contract already occurred. So we'll be beginning that this summer. And then just many of the things that we're out working on. We're working on some of the key corridors in the city, looking at what we can do with traffic. We're doing some bike boulevard aspects. You can see you all have joined us at some of our events, so you see photos down there at the bottom. And then, of course, Central Park, the Japanese garden improvements. Again, we have the Smooth Streets program we're very proud of. It's just really kicking off. The bicycle master plan underway, and the bottom slides are just our maintenance staff that's really the workhorse behind what we do. They're out every day trying to do what they can for the citizens of this city. And up on the upper right, that's from the night work that was done on Hillsdale. Last night was the last night they'll have to do that night work, so they did get the paving done last night, so that's great. It looks wonderful as well if you haven't been by there. Next. We also try to maintain our city health as well, so that's with our Team Up to Cleanup program, and of course participating in the coastal cleanup with the Bayfront Cleanup Celebration. This year will be our 35th anniversary. So that's on September 21st, 2019, so we hope you'll mark your calendar for that event. Next. This is just some more photos of our staff out and working from early in the morning all throughout the day. So they're just taking care of business in the city from our streets and creeks and other aspects to our buildings. So they're very proud of the work that they all do, and as they're out there giving their heart each and every day. Just thought this was a great photo of our courtyard and the activities that happen around there. You can see in this photo, there's actually 5 people in there hard at work doing their thing, getting ready for the day. And as I said, we are first responders as well. So this is something that our crews had done, and so click a couple of times, Matt. So just want to underline that this was the City of San Mateo Public Works that actually rescued these 13 ducklings and got credit for it. So again, we are first responders as well, and we're proud to be serving you all and the citizens of this community. I'm really happy some of the staff joined me tonight. They're very dedicated and hardworking, and we enjoy working here for you and for the citizens. So thank you for allowing us to show off tonight.
I'm glad you did. So we do have a proclamation here to acknowledge all of the hard work that all of our employees do for our residents that work in Public Works. And I could not agree more on the first responder part, as well as what you do meets the most immediate needs of our residents. And we're very grateful for the professionalism, always with an eye on how much it costs. And I do appreciate that as well. I'm sure the taxpayers appreciate it as well. But it is very immediate, whether you walk down the street or the sidewalk in the morning, you flush the toilet, you go to, I don't know, let's see what else. You go to a storm drain that might be clogged. Whatever it may be, Public Works is on the line, and I don't think people fully appreciate that it is one of the major roles of municipal government is to satisfy all of these public works endeavors. So I'm a big Public Works fan. As you know, when I ran for office, my tagline was that I was going to make sewers sexy. I think we're almost there.
Right.
But what a great looking group, and we thank you so much. Does anyone else want to add anything? If not, go ahead.
One thing. I think you coined a new nickname for a public work, or a new motto for Public Works. Public Works, taking care of business. I like that.
Taking care of business, right?
And as a person who actually started as a Public Works Commissioner way back in 2006. Yeah, 2006. I learned a whole lot, and I really know that what you do is extremely important work to each and every one of us, even though most people have no idea what you're doing a lot of the time, except to the extent they see the big trucks out there. But otherwise, you people do a whole lot of great things. So I want to thank you all very much.
You're our unsung heroes. So without further ado, did you want to add anything more? I'll come down, we'll take a picture. Would you guys all like to join me? I think we as the council should
Yes.
join all of these fine Public Works people.
Come on in.
Using hand gestures and you
Going
mess
like
me
this.
up. And then you start talking like this and you mess
Which
me
of the
up.
guys are coming down?
Layer, people in front.
How's that? Here.
Yeah, you can't stand there.
You're fine, you're doing fine. Sewer. Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Cassia. Thank you so much. Sorry.
Okay, shall we have roll call?
Certainly. Councilmember Bonilla.
I'm here.
Councilmember Goethals is unavailable. He's stuck at an airport. Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Fresquet. And Mayor Pappen.
Here. Okay, so I have ceremonial matters. Ms. Lim is here. But we have the Girl Scouts, and I don't see them on my...
Public comment.
They're going to come for public comment. Okay. Good evening. Where are we?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the Council. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present to you this evening. May is actually historic presentation.
You got a slideshow? Okay, great. Let's see if you do better than Public Works.
Okay. May is Historic Preservation Month, and to honor the history and culture of San Mateo, I've prepared a brief presentation on the San Mateo's history, followed by an introduction to the city's new self-guided walking tour of our historic district. San Mateo was first recognized as a place in the 1790s as a Catholic mission outpost. In 1864, the railway opened, which connected San Francisco to San Jose, which was 49 miles, and that connected through the peninsula. The city was incorporated in 1864, which means San Mateo is turning 125 this year. Happy birthday, San Mateo. One of the founding fathers was Charles Polhemus, who established the original town, which was bound by San Mateo Drive, El Dorado, and Baldwin to Fifth Avenue. This later became what we now know as downtown. B Street was the main thoroughfare of the town and also the main commercial corridor. One of the first expansions out of the original town was the Hayward Park subdivision. In the 1930s, 85% of the population commuted between San Francisco. And here are other fun facts. In 1930, the Baywood Theater, which is now 333 South B Street, opened. The Bay Meadows Racetrack opened in 1934, and the Hillsdale Mall opened in the 1950s. Downtown San Mateo is the commercial core for residents, providing commercial goods along B Street, such as pharmacy, dry goods, butchers, grocery, lumber, hardware, and banks. To maintain the culture and history of our downtown, the city established design guidelines for development within the historic district. The 200 block of 3rd Avenue has strong reminders of San Mateo's development in the 20s and 30s. To celebrate the character and history of San Mateo's growth, from a small town to a prominent city in San Mateo County, staff updated the self-guided walking tour and to highlight the architectural heritage of our historic downtown. The concentration of contributor structures forms the basis of San Mateo's first historic district and provides an opportunity to experience our history by foot. So the self-guided walking tour, which I think you have copies of, is on our website. This current URL does not work. It's located at cityofsanmateo.org/planning under the planning resource documents. However, we are working with IT to get this shortcut live, so it should be up in the next couple of days. And thank you again for your time, and happy birthday to San Mateo.
Thank you, thank you. Stay tuned, we'll have a whole lot more as it relates to our 125th. Okay, so let's get into the consent calendar. So we got to get to the Girl Scouts.
Public comment.
We will get there. Hold on. One more item.
All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item may be removed and considered separately. Item number 2, shared mobility regulations ordinance adoption. Item number 3, school districts, school resource officers agreement. Item 4, 1900 O'Farrell Street, Suite 375, lease assignment. Item 5, Burrell Park Development Project Professional Design Services agreement. Item 6, Senior Transportation Services contract. Item 7, Cal Water Infrastructure Improvement Plan Letter of Support. Item 8, Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act loan application. Item 9, contracts with contingency component update. Item 10, Basins 2 and 3 collection system improvements amendment. Item 11, Baywood High Voltage Street Light Conversion Project agreement. Item 12, wastewater treatment plant biosolids hauling and disposal agreement. Item 13, wastewater treatment plant upgrade and expansion project, building plan review and inspection services agreement.
Okay. Does anyone wish to pull anything from the consent calendar?
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Number
let's go.
4.
Okay. So number 4 is coming off?
Well, since I wasn't able to read a report about it on the Prime Gov, I think we should pull it.
It's not showing on mine either.
On Prime Gov, the consent calendar skips from 3 to 5.
We have a printed AR if you would like to see that. We have one that we handed Councilmember Rodriguez.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
Through the mayor, I can brief you on that item.
Let's deal with the remaining items on the consent calendar. Anybody else want to pull anything? Any member of the public needed to pull anything from the consent calendar? No. Okay. So do we have a motion to approve everything but 4?
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That motion passes 4-0. And now let's deal with item 4. You want to brief us? And in the meantime, we'll pass out something in writing too.
Sure.
I'll get it back. Oh, you haven't read it yet? It's a half a page.
It's
Here you go.
it's
Okay,
a
go.
pretty simple item.
Okay.
This is just transferring the lease of Suite 375 at 1900 O'Farrell. It was previously with City of San Mateo. It was for fire prevention. Now that fire prevention is no longer with the city, it's in its own separate San Mateo Consolidated Fire District. It's just transferring the assignment of that lease to San Mateo Consolidated Fire District.
So the JPA will now be the tenant,
Yes.
right? Okay, I can live with that. Any questions?
I just have a question. If it wasn't posted, is it still okay to approve it? Okay.
It was posted.
It just wasn't.
Okay.
Well, what I was able to see today and what I see now, there was no number 4 there.
I can look and confirm.
The paper agenda you handed me has it on it, right? But the actual PrimeGov site doesn't. And the thing is, there's no administrative report on this, it's just the line item.
Let me check the site.
I think that's the AR right there. So quick question, and so City of San Mateo will be off the hook? They come right in our stead? JPA?
Yes.
City of San Mateo is off the hook.
Yes.
The landlord says, see you later.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make absolutely certain.
And from a legal perspective, you can't act on it tonight if you choose to. It was on the agenda, notified and posted to the public, so you
It
can
was?
act on it tonight if you want to, even if there was no report on the
Got
electronic.
it. It was on the agenda itself?
Yes.
And this was the lease agreement?
Yeah. Item 4.
Yeah,
Item 4, the lease agreement.
It's there.
Okay. All right. Without further ado, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So let's open up for public comment. Let's
We
hear
have
from the
Girl
Girls.
Scouts.
The Girl Scouts, come on down.
Troop 61990.
Based here in San Mateo? Okay. Come on down, gals. Who's going first? Okay. You might have to pull the microphone down to where we can hear you. There you go. Don't be shy. Go ahead. Perfect. Perfect.
Your Honor and Honorable Council members, we are 3rd grade Brownies Girl Scout Troop 61990. As Brownies, we do what is called a journey. Our journey is a year of learning and ends with a Take Action project. This year, our journey was about girls around the world.
We learned their stories, talked about our stories, and realized we have the power to change these stories. To change stories for the better, our Take Action project was focused on anti-bullying.
As a troop, we created a video that gave tips on dealing with a bully. We focused on if you see bullying, say something. Trying to actually understand the bully and for everyone to be inclusive.
We also made anti-bullying posters and hung them up at our school and in our classrooms.
We tried to change a story that we see all the time at our schools.
Thank you for your time. We hope you make changes to stop bullying when you see it or experience it. Help make peace. We asked the City Council to help us by celebrating the Stop Bullying Month in October and to ask people to consider all of these points. Thank you.
Outstanding. Let's give it up for the Brownies. Brownies are welcome. So while we can't comment on things that come up during public comment, we will take a look at this in October so that we can join in October for Anti-Bullying Month. What an important, important message.
Thank all of you.
Thank you, thank you. They certainly did better than Public Works. Just want to see if they were listening.
They're still back there, Diane.
Madam Mayor, we do have another public comment.
We do. Okay, let's go forward with our additional public comment, please.
And that would be Drew.
Oh, Drew. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone on the council and Madam Mayor. It's going to be tough to beat that previous presentation. And my next comment, I'm going to have to say, was not planned with Public Works Week. Totally unplanned. I've been waiting for an agenda where it's not super packed and it's going to be till midnight to make my comment that I'm going to make. So I've had some really great experiences with Public Works, like the Corp Yard, and I think I just feel I want to say a few things about like the Corp Yard and it's just how some things work. Because there's a lot of comments about let's take the Corp Yards area and let's make it into housing, which housing's important and stuff. But I consider the Corp Yard just this strategic asset and the ability to go talk to someone occasionally about maintenance requests. I use the app, I've used email, not that I do it a lot, but occasionally there's a more complicated request. And the fact you can go talk to a human person, they can pull up a map and they can go, and if they're not sure, they can call someone in the department. And that person, I had this happen with some pothole, and that person knew exactly, he's like, I know where you're talking about. I will get it taken care of. And it wasn't a random pothole. There was wires in it and some other stuff why it was important. So we don't have a subsequent maintenance thing because wires get cut, then a traffic light doesn't work. You know, it's like, get it solved while it's this tiny cost versus this increased cost. He got on it. There was another thing with the sign department and stuff. I noticed some things near where I live, and I just turned in a list, and it wasn't expecting, hey, get it fixed anytime soon, but it was just FYI. At some point, the person in the department called and said, hey, we got the list, a few questions, and hey, we've got a lot going on our plate, and I've understood the city is a big city. I mean, there are a lot of streets, a lot of stuff, and he was just thorough about following up and about we'll work it as we get time, and understood the situation and stuff. And it was just like, that's the strategic asset. And having them there when, we need the police, we need the fire, but when some stuff happens like flooding or like weather or an earthquake and stuff, they're going to be first responders helping to open up the roads and stuff. And I just think it's, I appreciate the work. And it's not that I'm not going to come and complain about a few things from time to time and stuff, but, they've just been, to a fault, really great to work with and stuff in the yard and around that stuff. So thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Apparently, Public Works, the word's out. I know you paid them, but... But I know that Public Works has made a great effort at enhancing their communication with the public, and this was probably a good example of that. So another reason to honor Public Works tonight. Mr. Lee.
So we have
I know
item
why you're
14,
here.
park impact fee, park in lieu fee, affordable housing, commercial linkage fee, transportation improvement fee, update, public hearing.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Pappen, members of the council, Rich Lee, Finance Director. The item before you this evening presents various findings and asks that the council consider updates to the city's fiscal year 2019-2020 master fee schedule. Brief background, the council approved the 2019-2020 master fee schedule in April of 2019. However, there were specific findings that are required by law related to cost escalation. That is the purpose of this agenda item. Just very quickly, one of those is the park impact fee and the park in lieu fee. One of the major components of that fee calculation is the median land value. The median land value increased from $4,502,000 to $4,888,000. And as such, for example, for a 150 residential development of multifamily units, that would calculate to just over $3 million with the new update. The second fee is the affordable housing commercial linkage fee, that is per square foot. Per the municipal code, this fee is set by resolution, and included in the original resolution was a provision to annually increase this automatically It is tied to the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index, or the CCI, which increased 4.4% since 2016, and that is reflected in the new fees on the far right column. The third and final fee for this evening is the transportation improvement fee. Similar to the commercial linkage fee, it is also tied to the Engineering News Record, CCI. The last time this fee was increased was 2018, and since then the CCI has increased 3.03%. Following the similar example for 150 residential multifamily development, the transportation improvement fee would be $402,000. To recap the brief presentation, we're asking council to do this evening is to adopt a resolution updating the specified fees and their findings, and amend the fiscal year 2019-2020 master fee schedule. And with that, I welcome any questions.
So I just had that one question. The CCI, is that based regionally or throughout the United States, or how does it work?
The specific region noted in the resolution for each of those is the San Francisco area.
Oh, San Francisco, great, okay. Any other questions?
Richard, could you go back to the chart for a second? This one.
Okay.
On the single-family dwelling, that's per dwelling unit, 1,000 square foot house, 10,000 square foot house, all the same?
Correct. That's my understanding. It's for any single-family home.
Okay. Yeah, and I think I understand the rest. I have another question, but I'll talk with Drew about that later. Thank you.
Okay. Any other
I had a
questions?
question.
Oh, please.
I was just curious, as opposed to just updating these, do we ever take a look at like updating the actual formulas themselves? Like, and how often does that occur?
So that's one of the items on the 1920 strategic plan, is looking holistically at our impact fees.
Great.
So that'll come back next fiscal year.
Perfect. That's all I had.
Any other questions?
Yeah, let me go back. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It seems like a larger house with more bedrooms, bigger driveway, bigger garage, more cars is going to have more impacts than a small house with maybe, well, the standard garage now is now 2, but many of our homes only have 1. But there doesn't seem to be any way to calculate for additional impacts from larger users.
So I think we can look into that as a part of our larger study. We'll look into that aspect. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and probably even more important would be the multifamily. Because if you have 3 apartment units or you have 10, there's a vast difference. So a lump sum for those would probably be more concerning to me than it would be the single family even. The flat fee for a multifamily.
But that is per dwelling unit there.
Oh, I stand corrected. I knew that. Never mind. Okay. Other questions? Sorry.
When you reevaluate the fees, will you also be looking at if our standard of 2 acres per 1,000 residents is still makes sense?
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks.
What's your time frame on that?
It'll be during next fiscal year. So we'll get working on it early in the
After
fiscal
June.
year. Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay. Any more questions from council? Okay. Let's open it up for any questions from the public comment, rather.
I have no public comments on this item.
Okay. We'll bring it back to the council. Anybody want to make any comments, or do we have a motion?
Well, are we going to make a motion since we just raised some things that need to be looked at, or can we put it off?
I think we want to adopt the 1920 fees, because any changes that would be made, ideally, we would be coming to you for the 2021 fee schedule.
Okay.
I'll move adoption of a resolution to adopt increases to the park impact fee, park and move fee, affordable housing, commercial linkage fee, and transportation improvement fee, and update the city's 2019-2020 fee schedule.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Bonilla. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes 4-0. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Okay, and we will move on to the next item, item number 15.
2018 San Mateo Rail Corridor Transportation Management Association update. And the clicker is operating if anybody needs it now.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. Sue Ellen Atkinson with the Public Works Department, here to present on the 2018 Rail Corridor TMA update. So tonight I'll be providing an overview of the Rail Corridor Transportation Management Association, or TMA, discuss the 2018 TMA annual report, including the data collection, trip generation compliance, and notable findings regarding Bay Meadows Phase 2, and then sharing feedback from the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission on the report. So as background, the city adopted the San Mateo Rail Corridor Transit-Oriented Development Plan in 2005 to encourage the creation of transit-oriented development, or TOD, around the Hillsdale and Hayward Park Caltrain stations. This plan had the goal of reducing new vehicle trips in the rail corridor area by 25%, and called for the creation of a Transportation Management Association, or TMA. So if you're looking at the map on the screen, participation in the TMA is required for all new development in the TOD zones, which are the gray shaded areas. And in the broader corridor plan area within the outline, it's strongly encouraged, and then it is available to any existing uses outside of this area. The TMA is required to provide an annual update to the city on trip generation monitoring, and that's what we're here to discuss tonight. In 2011, the Hillsdale Station Area Plan expanded the area where new development is required to join the TMA. And that includes everything shown within this boundary. So that's in addition to what was on the previous screen. 2018 TMA activities. The TMA board is comprised of developers and property owners who have received approval for development within an area that's required to join the TMA. The city does have representation as a non-voting, non-dues paying member. The map here on the screen shows all of the members of the TMA, arranged by application under review, completed projects, partially complete projects, and those projects that are still under construction. In 2018, the TMA board held 3 official meetings, and currently no TDM services or programs are funded by the TMA at this time. The 2018 data collection, or the monitoring program, data collection and traffic counts were collected on Tuesday, November 13th. This was slightly delayed from previous years. In prior years, we had collected data in October. At the time, in October 2018, there was a large PG&E gas line project in the area, and there were full road closures on Delaware between 25th and Pacific. So it was decided to delay the trip counts until November, and they were scheduled for November 13th. This was after daylight savings time ended, so part of that PM peak period, 4 to 6 p.m., was when it was dark. And also, the campfire started over the weekend just prior to the traffic counts being collected. So that resulted in poor air quality at the time that the counts were collected. However, the counts were taken during the PM peak period. We did driveway counts and then some intersection counts as supplemental data. So going back to the campfire impact, the air quality at the time of the counts across a majority of the region was in the unhealthy range according to the air quality index, and as you can see on the screen. And health advisories were in effect, advising folks to stay indoors and avoid activities outside, including walking and biking. So this likely prevented people from walking or biking for their commutes or for their recreation activities, and may have contributed to an increase in vehicle trips. So due to the air quality and also due to the impact of moving the traffic counts a month later after daylight savings time ended, staff determined that the data collected this year was inadequate to determine compliance with the trip cap requirements for each development. And as such, the city would not be enforcing trip reduction requirements for this program this year. Although the data is inadequate in determining compliance, we can see some indication of travel behavior through analyzing the results. So this here is a list of all of the projects that have been completed or partially completed, except for Bay Meadows, which we'll be covering separately. So during the project entitlement phase, short-term and long-term trip reduction goals are calculated for each project and defined in the conditions of approval. Long-term trip reduction goals, are based on full build-out, and for most take effect after the grade separation project is complete and opened. Projects are currently required to meet the short-term trip reduction goals, which are outlined in green here. The results of the traffic counts this year are seen all the way on the right-hand column. Looking at some information in detail, 400 and 450 Concar and Station Park Green are significantly below that short-term trip reduction goal, but we want to note that they're not fully occupied right now. So that may change in future years. And then Delaware Pacific and 2000 Delaware are counted together because they share a driveway, and their trip reduction goal was set to count as one. And they were the only project during these counts that was over their trip reduction goals. So a little more detail on those two projects. The projects were identified as non-compliant in the 2017 report. They were above the trip reduction goals set in 2017 also. In 2018, in August rather, the projects together submitted revised TDM plans to the city to include additional TDM measures to try to meet the trip reduction goals the next year. In September of 2018, those revised TDM plans were approved by the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission. And just about 2 months later, those driveway counts were taken, and the extenuating circumstances were still in place with counts being taken a month later and the poor air quality. So I had mentioned that we would talk about Bay Meadows separately. The conditions of approval for Bay Meadows include a detailed plan to monitor trip generation for the whole neighborhood. That annual monitoring is supposed to begin when the estimated trip generation for the neighborhood exceeds 1,100 trips. At this time, the estimated trip generation for all of the completed and occupied development in Bay Meadows is just over 1,200 trips. So it does exceed that threshold. And that means that a full monitoring program that will capture all trips in and out of the neighborhood, including vehicles that are parked on street, will begin in 2019. So again, the key findings from this year's report. The data is inadequate to determine compliance for this year due to the air quality effects and the time of day, or time of year rather, that the counts were taken. Bay Meadows Phase 2 full monitoring will be required starting in 2019. And despite the extenuating circumstances, most of the projects are still meeting their trip reduction requirements. In April, we took the report to the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission. The commission recommended that City Council accept the report. And one note that they made at the time was to acknowledge the San Mateo Medical Center as a source of vehicle trips in the city, and recommended that the TMA board invite the medical center to join given the significant number of trips to that location. Participation in the TMA is available to uses outside of the boundary area, but it is voluntary. And staff will advise the TMA board of the commission's recommendation. So tonight, the recommendation is to review and accept the 2018 San Mateo Rail Corridor Transportation Management Association Annual Report. And that concludes the formal presentation.
Okay, questions? Yes.
Yes, I have a question. So when looking at Delaware Pacific in 2000 Delaware, and they were out of compliance in 2017, then submitted a revised plan, but you couldn't get a good count in November. Is there some reason why we don't count again in the spring? I mean, is the TMA set up so you can only do the count in the fall? Because that seems like a long time to go when they were already out of compliance to not figure out if they are meeting their goals by waiting a full other year.
Sure. We shared the results of this year's data collection, regardless of the circumstances, with the projects. And they know that they're required to meet their trip reduction goals next year. And while the data this year is not adequate for compliance, it does show us some indication of travel behavior. So they know that they need to work hard to reduce their trips in time for the next data collection. Historically, data collection has been done once annually. The TMA does self-assess to pay for those trip counts. And I don't know that they have plans to do additional trip counts at this time.
So what would happen if someone's out of compliance 2 years in a row?
So the first year that a project is out of compliance, they need to submit additional TDM measures as part of their TDM plan at a commission level. For the second year, it may rise to the city council level, and they may be required to implement additional TDM measures outside of those that they could self-identify as additional.
Okay, thank you.
I have no questions right now.
And then after that, what happens if they're still out of compliance?
If they're still out of compliance after the second year and after the required TDM measures, I believe that the expectation is that the city will continue to work with the project. The goal is to work with the project in order to meet those goals. So trying different TDM measures or different options for the residents or for the employees at that site, I believe is what would happen if there continues to be non-compliance.
So we tell them to try harder. Okay. That's the only question I have.
Okay. Well, I don't have any questions, so we should open it up to the public.
I have no speaker cards on this.
Okay. So we'll bring it back to the council.
I have some comments.
Sure, please, go ahead.
So I, in my capacity as a member of the Commute.org, which is the Peninsula Traffic Congestion Relief Alliance, our director there is John Ford, who was also the city's manager for our TMA. And so I've been paying very closely attention to these trip calculations for the last 3 years, at least that I can recall. But what I know is that, for instance, the reason we always collect the information at the same time of the year, every year, is because counts at other times wouldn't be comparable to the past counts. So to have it all in the proper context, comparing apples to apples instead of apples to oranges, we do it at the same time every year. And that's why when it was done at a slightly later time, and then we had the smoke and so forth, really was kind of it would not have been a good count, so it wasn't. I want to say that I totally recommend this report and accept its findings because it's a good indication of the fact that, at least for all the years past, we know that our trip reduction strategy has been working. It's working for every place except those 2 sites that we know of. And it looks like Bay Meadows might have a little issue now that we're going to be examining. But in general, we're still way below the trips that would have been generated without this requirement. So I think we need to continue on this path. I think we had a couple of anomalies here that we need to look closer at and get over with, but it just takes time. So I'll be voting in support of this.
Okay. I do, sorry, I have one more question. It is that you have not monitored Bay Meadows before because they're not fully built out, but because of what's indicated right now, we've gone over that initial threshold, so now you're going to start formal monitoring. Is that what I heard?
We've done informal driveway counts, which do not fully count the number of trips. So number of trips was calculated using ITE trip generation ratios, and based on the number of dwelling units and square footage that is currently built out and constructed at Bay Meadows. So what was set in the conditions of approval is once they went over 1,100, that's when the full monitoring kicked in, and the calculation this year showed that they're just over 1,200. So that would include full cordon counts, so that's ins and outs at all of the access points to the project area, and also parking on street.
So this is based on an estimate at this moment in time?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll see what happens there. Okay, I didn't quite follow it. Okay, are there any other comments from council members? Okay.
I just have one additional question.
Sure,
For the uninitiated members of the public out there, could you explain what ITE is, please?
Sure. It's the Institute of Traffic Engineers, Transportation Engineers.
Thank you.
Okay. So do we have a motion to accept the report at this moment?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the report?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Thank you, and we'll keep our fingers crossed, among other things. So we'll move on to the next item, which is, what, 16? Are we on 16? Okay.
Private sewer lateral ordinance recommendations.
Okay. Come on down. And this has already been to sustainability, right? And infrastructure? Okay. Alonzo, that must be you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. My name is Alonso Barahona. I'm a management analyst for the Public Works Department. And today I'll be doing a presentation on the private sewer lateral ordinance update. Private sewer lateral ordinance. The city's private sewer lateral ordinance states that the property owner is responsible to repair, replace, and maintain their sewer lateral. In the ordinance details, a private sewer lateral is defined as the pipe running from the building to the city sewer main, including the Y connection at the city main. This does include any portion of the pipe that crosses into the public right-of-way and is buried underneath the sidewalk and street. The current ordinance is broad. By supplementing the ordinance, the city can promote more frequent identification of deficient private sewer laterals. So why update the current ordinance now? A supplemented sewer lateral ordinance will help achieve city goals to prevent sanitary sewer overflows and reduce inflow and infiltration into the sanitary sewer system. In past Clean Water Program updates, Public Works staff presented the city's comprehensive approach to prevent SSOs. That approach included sewer system capacity and flow management improvement, coupled with sewer collection system rehabilitating and reducing inflow and infiltration. Supplementing the city's private sewer lateral ordinance to include more in-depth requirements for inspections and subsequent repair or replacement will increase the detection of deficient laterals. As deficient laterals are identified and repaired or replaced, the city's investment in upgrading the sanitary sewer system will be better protected. A supplemented private sewer lateral ordinance is one manner or tool in a toolbox to address inflow and infiltration from private sewer lateral and aligns with the City Council's priority to identify ways to expedite the replacement of deficient private sewer laterals. Reducing inflow and infiltration from sewer laterals will have other benefits such as maintaining the integrity of public roadways and not undermining construction and paving efforts of the city's pavement management program. So staff research steps. Staff researched private sewer lateral ordinance in 12 San Mateo County cities and the East Bay Municipal Utility District. A few of those cities are represented here above in the slide. Best practices, which revealed that in all ordinance reviewed, the property owner is responsible for the maintenance and repair of their lateral. The city of San Mateo has also implemented this best practice within their current sewer lateral ordinance. Staff also took into account the input from the defunct Public Works Commission and the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission. Staff asked if the ordinances that were passed by the other cities accomplished the following goals. Have an ability to increase deficient lateral repair or replacement. We want to consider approaches that will have the greatest ability to identify deficient sewer lateral. Meet or exceed city goals. And also, we want to align with the City Council priority to identify ways to expedite the replacement of deficient sewer laterals. Have an impact on stakeholders. Stakeholders could include realtors if there is a requirement for a sewer lateral inspection at the time of the property sale, as well as property owners who may have a financial impact, such as the cost of an inspection. Are achievable with city resources. City resources will be required to implement any additional requirements, such as permits or inspections. Community outreach. Staff conducted 2 community outreach meetings to raise awareness regarding the proposals for a potential upgrade to the private sewer lateral ordinance. Staff created 3 large posters that provided room to explain the benefits and issues of each potential ordinance update option. In addition, new posters defined a sewer lateral and the city's cost-sharing program that complemented existing posters describing the Clean Water Program. Public Works staff sought the opinions of property owners on 3 new proposed options. During the community meetings, participants received 2 green dots to identify their preferences. They could place all dots on one choice or spread their dot budget across 2 preferences. A total of 15 participants attended the meetings. Participants favored option 3 more than option 1 or 2. Let's look at the sewer lateral ordinance options that best align with city priorities. Option 1, title transfer policy, also known as a point of sale. Sewer lateral inspection would be required during a property title transfer to determine the conditions of the property's sewer lateral. If a sewer lateral is deemed deficient, the repair or replacement of the sewer lateral must occur. Benefits, potentials to replace approximately 320 additional sewer laterals, assuming 50% of all title transfer lateral inspections required replacement. Sewer lateral condition is known to both parties at the time of the title transfer. Repair or replacement of sewer lateral would be negotiable between the parties of the property. Some issues that may occur, possible additional step in closing of a sale. City works with realtors to educate buyers and sellers of the ordinance requirements. Increase in city staff time for inspections. And city staff will need to develop a system for record retention on sewer lateral inspections. Option 2, mandatory inspection policy. I do want to preface that the triggers for this option have changed since the last Sustainability and Infrastructure meeting in December 2018 due to collaborative meetings held with the Community Development Department. With that said, in this proposed option, a sewer lateral inspection would need to occur if a building permit was acquired by the property owner for the following instances: greater than 50% of a total remodel addition based on square footage, demolition while maintaining current sewer lateral, commercial property experiences a lateral overflow or blockage, and changing commercial property service level. So benefits, potential to replace approximately 198 additional sewer laterals, assuming 50% of permits required replacement. City is able to take enforceable action to direct lateral inspections and repair and replace if needed by withholding final permit approval. And issues that may arise, potential additional financial costs for property owners completing home improvement work, impact on both community development and public works staff. Enhancements would need to be made to city software to track the program. Option 3 is a combination of both option 1 and option 2, title transfer plus mandatory inspection policy. This one has the greatest potential to replace approximately 518 additional sewer laterals, assuming 50% of permits and title transfer inspections required replacement. And again, city is able to take enforceable action to direct inspections and repair and replace if needed by withholding final permit approval. The issues that may come up are the same as those with option 1 and 2, but I'll reiterate them. There's a possible additional step in closing of a sale, increase in city staff time for inspections, city record retention on sewer lateral inspections, potential additional financial costs for property owners completing home improvement work, coordination amongst multiple city departments, and software implementation. Budget impact. This table reflects the addition of staff time needed to implement the different options presented. The calculation for the estimated staff hours is based on the total number of permits that would be impacted by each category. Staff further calculated based on a 50% sewer lateral deficiency rate in order to achieve estimated staff hours. Number a full-time equivalent and their associated impact to the budget. The additional FTE needed for this program to maintain normal levels of operation has not been budgeted. Therefore, staff would have to request additional funding to allocate changes in FTE. Staff anticipates that the cost would be absorbed by the Sewer Enterprise Fund, which receives revenues from the sewer service charges. Next steps, City Council to provide guidance on options presented tonight. The departments finalize implementation steps for recommended ordinance changes. Staff drafts an updated private sewer lateral ordinance, and council possibly adopts an updated private sewer lateral ordinance language. That's it, and I'll open it up for questions, and I'll leave this comparison summary up for council members.
Okay. Questions? Councilmember Frisk.
Yes, I have a few. Do we have any idea what the average cost is for someone to repair their sewer lateral?
We do have the average cost of replacing a full sewer lateral based on the city's cost-sharing program that we saw in last fiscal year was $8,400 for the total cost.
And I don't know how much money we have on our cost-sharing program. If we implement this program, given the numbers that look pretty significant, about how many people do we think we'd be able to help?
Well, given the current amount of applicants that we can receive for the cost-sharing program, we can receive about 186. And that's based on the funding that's been approved, $750,000.
And is that like first come, first serve?
It is first come, first serve.
And the criteria, is anyone eligible or just residential, or is it based on need?
Yeah, everyone's available to participate in the program. The only barrier that might hinder them from not being part of the program if there's a 3-year trenching moratorium on their street. But Public Works has worked with property owners to see if there's any way that we can have them be part of the program.
So commercial properties can also apply?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Okay, those are my only questions right now.
So let me question.
Hold on one second. 3-year moratorium on what? I didn't hear you.
It's a trenching moratorium, so when
trenching.
a street has been rehabilitated or reconstructed, a trenching moratorium where no trenching can occur for 3 years.
Okay. And the maximum you can get on that cost sharing is $5,000, even though the average cost is $8,400, right?
It's 50% of the lowest bid up to a maximum of $5,000.
50% of the lowest bid. Okay, go ahead.
That's what was my question. Thanks.
Sorry. Sorry. So 50% of the lowest bid, up to 5.
Up to 5, yeah.
Okay, Councilmember Rodriguez, thanks.
When you were estimating option number 2 with the 198, did you have any sense for how many projects might be potential applicants that would now be subject to this would try to avoid it by either touching less than 50% of their project or perhaps going underground and not getting a permit because of this?
So yeah, before our option 2 mandatory inspection policy we did have the triggers that were announced before at the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission looked at if there was an additional room added to a property or if there was any new bathrooms added that it would trigger a sewer lateral inspection. But we felt that was too onerous on the property owner because it'll be too expensive. So with our collaboration with the Community Development Department, we looked at what would be, if we're looking at a project that a property owner is doing on their for their property, that something like 50% of the square footage of their home or property would be sufficient amount that it would be enough in order for it not to trigger property owners to not want to pull those permits.
But you didn't change. I think in the answer is no by your answer, but you didn't change the projection of how many houses this would affect taking into account that it might change the incentives or behavior of applicants? Is that question making sense?
I think between the building department, there was some discussion about that, and that's why we came up with a 50% number.
Okay.
It was earlier on, we had a much lower number, and so that was the concern, is that people would just not get a permit, right? Which is what your point is. So this was a good balance, what we thought would be a good threshold.
Either not get a permit or, like with fire sprinklers, touch 50 or touch 40% of their house one time. And okay.
Yeah.
And then, so this would trigger the inspection, and then you get inspected, and some people, might not need new replacement, correct?
Correct. If the sewer lateral is in good conditions, then they don't have to do anything with their sewer lateral.
I haven't got mine inspected, which I probably need to pretty soon, but how much does that cost us to get it inspected, approximately?
I think the average is around $200 to $500.
That's with the camera, right? They put the
Yeah,
camera.
that's a sewer lateral inspection. Yeah.
And I think I saw this, but I just want to make sure I understand. Do you have any idea of like what percentage of these sewer laterals are inspected actually are found to be faulty? Is that like the 50%?
Yeah, that's our
efficiency rate?
50%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thanks. Those are questions.
So I have another question.
Okay.
Just because I know people are watching on TV, some members of the public are here. Why is it important that we do this? Can you explain that?
The Clean Water Program was developed because we have inflow and infiltration entering our sewer system. So obviously in wet weather, that creates a lot of more volume that gets distributed through our collection system and to the treatment plant. So we have to manage that water that's mixed with sewage and also process that. So whatever we can do to limit that from entering our system obviously provides less work for us to manage and to treat at the treatment plant. And also will eliminate or greatly reduce the opportunity for sanitary sewer overflows in the system, which gets out onto the streets and into our creeks and the bay.
And which are very unhealthy.
Correct.
Yeah, let me just ask if we can break that down just a little bit more, though, because not everybody knows what inflow and infiltration is. So can you explain what happens when there's a hole in the pipe and the soils are all wet?
Right. So if there's a hole or a crack in the pipe, when it rains, the ground gets saturated, and so water from the rainwater enters into the pipe, and that's how it enters into the system, the sanitary sewer system.
So it's like if you have a cardboard box and you poke a hole in it, there's all moisture in there, but none out here, so the moisture leaves to go to where there's more room for it. Is that kind of the theory?
That's correct. It goes to the kind of the weakest link, so to speak. So it finds its way into the crack and then into the open pipe.
And it actually, I've seen it squirting. It goes with force. It's not just
It can, yes.
flowing.
Right.
Yeah, it happens under my house. I see it there. I have a sump pump down there for that. But it squirts out of the wall. Right. Okay, good. So thank you.
And also another element to what our director Brad was saying was the other issue is exfiltration, which is sewage that leaks from those pipes that are deficient and goes into the ground and can cause it to be an environmental issue.
Another unhealthy aspect.
Yeah.
Right.
Councilmember Arias?
Is it true that especially in the old neighborhoods in San Mateo, like Aragon and Baywood and Hayward Park, that their sewer laterals are terracotta originally, and so they're terracotta pipes?
I think in general, most sewer laterals are made out of terracotta or clay pipes. That tends to be the when people apply for the sewer lateral cost sharing program, that's usually what they have.
So like my neighborhood, the houses were built in the 30s, and you can go around and you can tell who's had them replaced and who's not. And so the vast majority of houses on my street have original terracotta sewer laterals from the 1930s vintage. Okay.
And what happens to them is the earth moves, tree roots happen, they're made of clay, they crack.
Thanks.
Okay. With that, we will open it up for public comment. Do we have any speakers?
We have 3 speakers, Gina Zari, Elaine Gilbrecht, followed by John Brook.
Okay. Come on down.
Gina Zari.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Gina Zari, San Mateo County Association of Realtors. We participated in the previous meetings discussing sewer lateral, and we're happy to be there. We had a group of realtors who are very experienced in this and shared our views. And I'm going to restate them now because they haven't been included. Either this is an important issue or it's not. Either it's a public health and safety issue or it's not. If it's something that's so important that you want to require a mandate on your residents, it should be dealt with in an efficient way. Point of sale, title transfer is the least efficient way you can possibly choose because some houses don't turn over for 50 or 60 years. So if you want to go on the record, if you want to address this issue in an efficient way, in a way that will take care of the problem and will actually address the issue, which I contend is an important issue and a serious issue, it should be done in a way that's more thoughtful and more thorough. Like what we suggested at the previous meetings was like a zoning by zone. So have the city broken down into zones and have each zone, go through it every couple of years, go through a different zone. That's what was done in San Francisco in previous health and safety issues. That's what's been done in other cities in this county. And it's the only efficient way to accomplish this. So again, it's inefficient to do it at title transfer. It's not going to cover all the homes. It won't even cover 90% of the homes in 50 years. So hopefully you will take that into consideration. Thank you.
Elaine Gilbrecht.
Thank you. Elaine Gilbrecht, San Mateo County Association of Realtors. And I'll continue on with some of the points that Gina was making. I'll use myself and my husband as an example. We don't have any intention of selling the property, so you won't inspect our sewer lateral. It is an important issue. Thank you for bringing up the reasons why and for explaining it. And for that reason, I'm going to give you an example of something that was done in East Palo Alto several years ago when there were unsafe bars on windows and a family perished in a fire, and the city wanted to get all those bars off the windows. They did it zone by zone and took care of the whole city in a matter of years. Doing it by point of sale, we could estimate with the sales statistics that we see it could take between 50 and 100 years to get all the properties inspected, and that's the reason why we generally speak out against any point of sale issue to do in a real estate transaction. Thank you.
Last speaker, John Brook.
Good evening. My name is John Brook. I live in the city of San Mateo. According to the staff report, the city is under desist and refrain order to stop the infusion of untreated sewage into the bay caused by stormwater infusion into the sewage treatment plant. The staff report does not indicate how the recommended alternatives will resolve this issue, only that it will make some contribution. As the 2 previous speakers have pointed out, there is a way to resolve the problem, and it's called inspection by neighborhood. I recommend that the City Council ask staff to go back and review once again the zoned approach to resolving the issue and to resolving the city's being under a desist and refrain order. Thank you.
I have another speaker slip, and that would be Drew. Don't go anywhere.
Good evening again. So on this one, I don't view it as a mutually exclusive item. I view this as potentially a reasonable step, and some of the other items that have been brought up are potential solutions. Because I can say, from title transfer, I wish this was the policy in the city. One of the houses we bid on, we did inspect it, the line was failed. Another house that we ultimately purchased, it was on our radar to do, but we didn't get a chance to pull it off in the sale process. And within, I think, 3 or 4 months, we had a full house backup, full house. And it was a mess as a new homeowner to deal with this. And I know the people who sold it, what we paid our price, there was plenty of money to get this dealt with. And it could have been part of our mortgage if it's negotiated and stuff. It was a $15,000 process to change. We did a little more expensive. We trenched versus the punching the pipe through for some reasons. And we did get the costs, the cost sharing program helped. But the craziness of dealing with that when we're still trying to get settled into a house, into our place, it's just, I don't view it as if you can't do something else. Like it's zero-sum game. I view this could be a step for a season or for a while until maybe something else. There's any way we can make progress on this, at least as a homeowner has been affected firsthand by how that would have helped. That's my sense. Thank you.
Okay. Any other speaker cards?
I have none other.
Okay. So we'll bring it back to the council for comment and we can go from there.
I'd like to go ahead and say
Councilor Padilla, go ahead.
that after thoroughly reading and thinking about, and this is something we've been thinking and talking about for a number of years. It's been before us at least twice before, I think. I believe that the option 3, which takes into account almost every possible way for us to do as many lateral replacements as we can, would be most advantageous for us. I'm not sure about the 50% estimate of failures compared to those inspected. I think it might actually be lower. It depends on the part of town, okay? But it doesn't matter. Either way, it really has to be done for public health and safety reasons. We get more done with the third option. And so I really feel strongly that that's something we need to do. I understand the concerns of the people who spoke for trying to do it by zone or district, but this crosses all zones and districts, okay? This is something that we have to do where we can get as much of it done as we can in the shortest period of time. So that would be my recommendation. And tonight, we're only giving direction, so those are my thoughts.
Councilmember Rowland?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So I agree with the speakers that it is a very inefficient way to go. But I also feel that with the cost of living that we have here in San Mateo and how it's growing, I just think that there are many, many families that do not have that kind of money sitting around to be investing in this if they just happen to be in the district that was sooner rather than later in terms of being mandated to do this. So when I think of who possibly could have the funds to do this, I would think that if you're about to do a major remodel on your home or just going to start from scratch, you might have those funds. And if you're about to sell your property, you will soon have those funds. So I can't think of a more efficient way to do this. I don't think it's perfect, but just because it's not perfect, it doesn't make sense not to do it. So that's a long way of going around saying that I think that option 3 is the best way to go.
Okay. Yeah, I want to thank the speakers too. I mean, certainly if we could do more, it'd be better, but I think we have to start somewhere. And I think it would be quite a burden on quite a few citizens if we went by zone. I mean, I just don't see people would have the kind of funds available necessarily. But when you are getting ready to sell a home, you would be getting some funds, ideally, at the point of sale. And I also like the idea of if you're going to be remodeling at 50%, that's quite a bit to be adding on, and you want to make sure that your laterals are in good shape. So I like the option of combining title transfer and the mandatory inspection policy. To me, I think that covers the most and gets us started in the right direction on this.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to add one more thing.
sure.
Certainly, when somebody is looking at selling a home, the home gets inspected. And when a home is inspected, it's not unusual to find out it needs a roof or it needs a foundation because the foundation has got problems. Or the back wall that always smelled a little bit mildewy in the back bedroom. You can see mold growing around the window and down at the floor. Turns out that wall has been leaking. There's been some kind of a leak there. Water's been inside the wall. And now really all that's holding up the outside of that house on that part is the stucco. Okay, so you find out that work needs to be done typically at that point. And those things get negotiated. And I think this is one of those things that would get negotiated just like that. It fits right into that category.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would concur. It's not a perfect solution, but money starts to change hands, and it becomes a little bit easier than someone that's just sitting in their home year in and year out. So I concur with the comments that have been made, and so you're looking for guidance from us to go ahead and prepare an ordinance. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So I think you have for the concur to go ahead and start preparing it. You don't need a vote, do we?
No, I think we have what we need. We heard option 3, so we'll move forward with that and bring that back to council.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the report.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see here. I don't have any other agenda items unless you all would like to add some. I guess not. I'll take the silence as... and so if we may go with I can't even speak tonight. Do we have any reports and announcements? We'll start at the outer ends and come in. So, reports and announcements.
No.
Hold on, Maureen, I'll get to you. Okay, Deputy Mayor Fresket, come on.
Something.
Give it to us.
So last week was the PAL 5K run, and that's a collaboration with Stride for Awareness, which is trying to bring awareness to mental health issues. And it was a great event. Mayor Pappen was there. I was there. I don't know if any other council members. So, and I think there's about 200 people. So it was a lot of fun, but I wanted to note one of the highlights, for me at least, was our mayor's daughter, Alexa Lantini, sang the national anthem, and she was really amazing. And I wasn't even sure it was her at first. I was walking up the path and I heard this young girl sing, and I thought, wow, what a voice. So I just wanted to thank her. I think it was a proud moment for Mama.
Yes, for her mama, of course.
And it was a great event. So
yeah, it was a terrific event. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was thank you for the compliment, but it was a great event, and I think PAL's involvement is really important as we see around the country our youth having mental health issues, and we're doing everything we can here in San Mateo to pay attention to that issue, to stay out ahead of it. So, and this race is just one of those ways that we do it. So it's really, really cool. We also had our Home for All, a second installment of Home for All, a Saturday morning. Food was excellent. There was lots of healthy exchanges. I know that Councilmember Bonilla and Councilmember Rodriguez were there with big ears, listening to what was being said, along with our Deputy City Manager, Kathy Kleinbaum, our Assistant City Manager, I never know how to say that, and a whole bunch of key staff like Kohar back there. And we learned a lot. And we got to really see the community interact with one another and hear things that were competing points of view, and that's really what the program was about. So it was very insightful, and I'm sure we'll hear more about the comments that were exchanged. So with that, tonight I would like to adjourn in memory of Sergeant Gordon Joinville. So as we all know, we have a pool named after Sergeant Joinville, and tonight marks the, hold on, I have to get the days right, so give me one more second. Today is what, the 20th? So Sergeant Joinville was killed on May 23rd, 1968. So we're marking, 51 years or so, if I do that math right. And just by way of background, for those that might be sitting at home and don't know the circumstances under which San Mateo lost one of its finest, Sergeant Joinville was engaged in surveillance involving an LSD manufacturing ring and was forced to make a traffic stop on a suspect. During the stop, Sergeant Joinville was shot and killed. After a massive 2-day manhunt, the suspect was caught and arrested. The suspect was convicted and died in prison. The San Mateo Police Department remains in contact with the family of Sergeant Joinville, including his wife, Margaret. And in 2018, on the 50th anniversary of Sergeant Joinville's murder, San Mateo Police and Public Works installed a sign commemorating Sergeant Joinville's sacrifice and a blue streetlight to illuminate it on the location at 5th Avenue and Claremont Street where he was killed. And that light stays on during the day and all through the night. So it really is a nice way to remember Sergeant Joinville and the sacrifice that he made for all of the residents of San Mateo. So we'll adjourn if we may have just a moment of silence. Thank you very much.